When I first got started as the fatter Dapper, one of the key ways that I was hoping to flush out my wardrobe was by thrifting. It's an affordable way to get clothes of various sizes, types, and kinds. You can often help support nonprofits through buying clothes. It's a win-win all the way around. But the divine irony is that one of my biggest struggles with finding clothes is thrifting. Now, if you're not aware, my name is Nick Lanza. I am about 5'5", 5'6", and I currently weigh 268 pounds. I've lost a bit of weight since last July, praise God. I have a love affair with this style of fashion, right? The more dapper, the more upscaly, the suit and tie with now the addition of vests. Like, I love this stuff. I love wearing this type of clothing. But it's such a struggle for me to find it whenever I go out thrifting. Now, buckle up, because you'd be surprised at where I'm going to take this video. This isn't going to be me complaining about, thrift shops not having things, but more about the unfortunate mindset that people in my size bracket most of the time have. You see, thrifting has been around ever since we've had really industrialization. You could now go get secondhand things from secondhand places because, well, they are now making more and more first-hand product at a rate that we ourselves probably can't even keep up with nor buy. In fact, for the most part, we are struggling now to even keep up with the amount of stuff being produced to the level that we're now throwing things into landfills instead of donating them to charities and nonprofits that could help out people of less fortunate circumstances. It is truly a sign of the times and the sign of the corporate greed that plagues us. But with all of this mass industrialization of clothing and everything in between, we're now in a world where you have so many more options that you could just go buy something, wear it for a little while, and then just toss it. You don't necessarily need to keep it for long periods of time, and thus this thrifting boom began because more people wanted to be more ethical with how they were buying things. Thrifting was also the way that the poorer people of society and the lower classes and things like that could still maintain decent social standing, because in a lot of places they were buying the aristocrats' throwaways and making that into their standard fare. Hence why suits became commonplace amongst all varieties of people, not just the upper echelons of aristocrat society. But with this side effect of industrialization and being able to have access to more and more things, also brought along another side effect, and that was access to more and more industrialized food. Remember how I said this is going to get interesting? Let's talk about this. It is not a secret that there has been an obesity problem in the West for a number of decades. And unfortunately, it also meant that these companies that were making these industrialized clothes had to find a solution to keep those people clothed. That way we don't have all these overweight people going to jail for indecent exposure. That wouldn't be cool. So they started basically one-size-fits-all-ing their production methods and just adding material until things fit those people. But when we say fit, it doesn't really mean fit, it really just means covers them. This led to the inclination that dress clothes were just not comfortable, when in reality they can be made comfortable if you actually made clothes that fit real people and not just the models that go into your magazines. All this superficiality that I'm going over, I'm being very general with, so bear with me in those comments, please. Keep this in mind that I only have X amount of time to do this. I can't do a full college expose on this. But the reality is, because clothes are made the way that they are, people that are in my bracket tend to not care about trying to buy those types of clothes to be that kind of dressed. It's an unfortunate trend, but it is real, and if you want proof of it, go thrift in the plus size men's section especially. And this is going to come out, and I'm probably going to get flack for this, but one of my biggest gripes is that we as a society still hold that women are beautiful no matter what size, and thus we make clothing so that they will look good no matter what size, right? We have brands like Torrid that appeals to the plus size folk, and then everything in between for anyone smaller. There's a spectrum that is allowed because women want to feel beautiful and pretty when they wear their clothing. It's a fact. If it wasn't so, the industry wouldn't look the way that it does. And there's plenty that you could get into about the industry feeding that. That's a different video. But for some reason, when it comes to the men, they either get a pass or are just not held to that standard, when in reality, they should. Everyone should look their best. Everyone should try their best, be their best, fill in the blank. Everyone should do the best that they can without breaking the bank. Be fiscally smart. So because the societal expectation for men is unfortunately not to dress the way that I do, it means that we're getting more and more athleisure casual wear that's being made available for bigger guys, and not the nicer clothes, the office wear. And even with office culture now also switching towards a more casual environment, dressing like this is now seen to be the hustler's choice, or the not great dudes in social media and also on your television serials. More times than not, it's the classy dressed up businessman that's the guy going to jail in the cop drama. So not only do we have a society of men who are not able to fit the clothes well, so they don't want to buy them, we're now in a society that also treats people who do dress this way as potentially villainous in nature, when really we could just be regular dudes that want to dress nice, that want to represent ourselves well. Now factor in the cost, because to buy things firsthand from a lot of these big box retailers is sometimes as much, if not more, than if you went and bought them bespoke. To give a great example, I was shopping for shoes because I wanted to expand my shoe lineup from more than just 3/4 pairs. I wanted to have something that looks nice, that's good for casual, so I'm looking at loafers. And I decided to just let the algorithm do the work for me. Next thing I know, Johnston & Murphy, $300 shipped to my door, and it wouldn't even be a custom size. It was a standard width, which I can't fit because I have a wide foot. I go to other brands. I can't afford to buy some of these other shoes that would fit my style, being that I like a lot more colors and patterns and things like that, because they're just so expensive out the door. I either have to wait till they're on clearance and then try to get them, or, God forbid I miss out on that, pray that they end up on places like Depop. And bear in mind, this is just shoes. We haven't even touched shirts or pants or any of the accessory wear, because a lot of that stuff is now considered more jewelry, right? So it's harder to find that now. I mean, you go into some of these stores, you want to get a nice shirt, right? Say an Oxford similar to this one, and you're spending an arm and a leg for just a generic size that still needs to be tailored so that it fits correctly and doesn't look like you in a balloon. Now, thankfully, some stores are now offering the ability to add in spears and things like that to make the shirts fit the way they're supposed to, but that's not everyone. And as a result of this, we're left stuck having to shoulder the financial burden to make things fit better all the way through. So we have a society of men who don't want to dress nicer because of the way it looks, the way it fits, and the way it feels in the wallet. And then you have an additional unexpected factor. The stuff isn't made the way that it used to be. The expectation now is that clothes are designed to last up to 2.5 years, and that's it. And that's provided you take actual care of them. Most people just throw their stuff in the wash and hope for the best. Add to this all of the chemicals that people are now aware of and what they can do to your body hormonally and everything else. People are now trying to avert themselves from these dress clothes because most of them are unfortunately made out of polyester, and everything that you could buy on Amazon that is more affordable is not designed to last. So you have this stuff that you want to buy is too expensive, but the stuff that you can buy could potentially screw up your hormones in ways that we have yet to fully understand, honestly, and isn't even going to last through the end of the year. Add all of this together, and the fact is that it's just not worth it for most men and families to buy the men in their lives clothes like this, because it's just not worth it. Whether it's the emotional burden, or it's the financial burden, or it's the ecology of the situation, there's so much that plays into it for some people that Many of them just default to athleisure and wearing t-shirts, graphic tees they pick up at Walmart because whatever, right? They don't want to deal with the ramifications of everything else. They don't want to try because why bother? Now you might be asking, how does that have anything to do with thrifting? It has everything to do with thrifting. Because if there isn't a principal buyer, you're not going to have a secondhand market. And given that the obesity situation that has hit the West is a newer problem, something that really stemmed from the 50s, but it didn't become really prevalent until the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, there isn't a whole lot of good, classic, 100-year-old suits, for example, that you could just go buy somewhere that would fit someone that is, say, a 60R. I'm now a 54 thanks to my weight loss, and even I can't find things that are 20 years old in my size because there's just not a lot of it around. The people in the era that I'm trying to buy from didn't fit that size, and thus I can't find that size today. Whether it's because I'm going through a bespoke, more curated thrift shop, or even if I go to the local, Goodwill hospice care center, because they just don't have it in that size. People weren't that size back then, and thus the pool for people in my bracket, the plus size man trying to dress better, have a very hard time finding clothes. In fact, I shop on Depop at least 2 to 3 times a week, just trying to find things as simple as vests, one of my favorite pieces of menswear, and I can't hardly find anything that's of value. Whether it's the cheap plasticky pieces made out of rayon that you could have bought for $10 on Amazon 5 years ago that are now being sold for 20 bucks, or it's something that is just not going to last because it's already in tatters. There's never been a whole lot of good options for me in my size. And yes, I am actively trying to lose weight, and I know that as I go down in size, it might get easier. But the fact remains that unless people in those sizes at one point wanted to buy nicer stuff, you're not going to find it. Add to this the absolute proliferate depletion of our thrift shops because of people online trying to be vultures and capitalize on a very opportune market during COVID-19. And now we've got thrift shops all over the country that are curated one way or the other. And that shirt that should have been $2 at Goodwill is now being sold for 25. Like, being able to find anything of good value that actually would serve its purpose as being worn by someone on a regular basis is now becoming nearly impossible. And many of you now might be wondering, well, what do we do about it? Is there a solution? Can we do something about it? The answer to that is no. There is nothing we can do about it. Or if there is, I have yet to find it, as I myself shop regularly for clothes and trying to find decent deals so I don't break the bank trying to dress this way. The sad reality is that the resources it takes to make good stuff now costs a lot more, in addition to the transportation of things and tariffs and everything in between. It's just expensive now to try to make a living making this stuff, let alone for us as the consumers to buy this stuff. I'm at the point now where I have to save to just buy another shirt for the wardrobe. In fact, some of the clothes that I have, knowing the timetable that they're supposed to have, are probably going to start breaking down sooner than later because I've had a lot of the same shirts for a couple years now. If you've been following me from the beginning, you definitely will see it if you've kept up with the Get Ready With Me's that I've made over the years. But don't give up hope entirely. As we are moving towards this new era in fashion where people want stuff to be sustainable, reliably sourced, ethically sourced, there's been a push to go back towards natural materials, and thus meaning that we will go back to the way that clothes used to be made, that our grandparents and great-grandparents could have expected as far as the level of quality, craftsmanship, and the way that that stuff was acquired. People are now reading about Temu basically owning Brooks Brothers and knowing that a lot of the stuff that we see as high-end things are made in the exact same facilities but with different labels tacked onto them. They're now seeing that a lot of these big box retailers are almost all the same and would rather go to the small guy brands to try and buy their clothes, whether it's stuff like this or athleisure. And while hyperconsumerism unfortunately is something that we as the millennials and Gen Z and ultimately Gen Alpha are going to have to face in our time, there is still hope for us who prefer to do things the old-fashioned way, because people are waking up to the fact that this can be stuff that is made to last lifetimes, not years. And who knows, maybe someday, as a result of all of these concerted efforts to be more conscious about how we're spending and what we're spending on, maybe someday even my own grandchildren, if I ever have any, could potentially be buying clothes that are as high quality as what we were hoping to buy from our own grandparents' generation. And with that said, thank you all for watching. If you yourself know someone who is in my position or whatever, sound off. We want to hear the stories. We want to hear what some people's solutions were. After all, there are plenty of people who have guides for thrifting, but a lot of times they are geared to the feminine among us and not to the masculines. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, as always, please leave them down in the comment section. Let's have good conversation down there. Without further ado, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.